Okay, changing the oil on this car is very straightforward. I use the recommended Mobil 1 5W50, which is easily available on Amazon, hard to find in stores. Just order that up. The process is just like any other car. Go down here, and this is the drain plug. Now, the drain plug does have a sensor in it, so you just squeeze this clip to remove the electrical connector, and then you use the right size socket. It's fairly big. Adjustable wrench will work just fine, or a monkey wrench on there that fits on the outside. Don't grab this inside nut because that's the temperature sensor. And then once you've drained the oil fluid, the oil from the drain plug, just use your normal oil filter wrench to remove the filter. And you can get the official Lotus filters from your normal suppliers. And once you've drained the oil, then you would just fill it up to the recommended level through the oil fill, and you would check it through the dipstick to make sure you have it at the right level. So changing oil is just about as easy as any other car on this V8. Changing the gearbox oil is extremely easy on the V8 Esprit with the trunk floor removed. My favorite fluid is the Ford full synthetic manual transmission fluid. This is a fairly expensive fluid, but Rock Auto has a great price on it. It's about $15 a quart. I've used the red line, which is very popular for the Lotus and other cars for a long time, and the red line is outstanding. I find this Ford fluid that is the correct spec for this transmission to be even slightly better on smooth shifting. So I highly recommend this fluid, but the red line is great as well. And to change the fluid, the fill plug is just right here. Just put a socket onto the square bolt, and that's where you're going to fill from. And you can use a funnel with a tube to fill that, and it is a fill until it spills. So you can't overfill it. You just pour in about three liters of the transmission fluid and fill it until it dribbles out. The drain plug is just down here. So you would first drain it, and then the fill plug is right there. And those are 10 millimeter square sockets, readily available on Amazon. And that's how you would change the gearbox fluid. Just like the other maintenance items, changing the coolant is easy on this car and straightforward. I prefer to use this Peak pre-mixed antifreeze that is safe for aluminum. There's an aluminum engine, and this product is available from just about any parts store. It has about a 5-year long life antifreeze. I change it more frequently than that. And to change the antifreeze, you would start by draining the radiator and the cooling system. I like to do it by just removing this hose right here, this clamp, and pulling the hose out. And then that's going to let you drain the entire radiator, and having a little piece of hose on there makes it easy to direct the fluid into a bucket. And once you get everything drained out, then you're going to fill it through the header tank. And once you get it filled up, there are two ports where you bleed the cooling system from. One is right there. There's an Allen key that allows you to bleed it from this high point on the cooling system. That is the second place that you would bleed from. You would start by bleeding here on the radiator. So you just undo this screw right here, and until water comes out, and then you put that back on. And I would bleed from this one second since it's higher up, and keep it topped up to the right level. The right level, it's about in this area right here. You want to keep the level. Just have to have the header tank in the correct height according to the manual. The overflow tank in the wheel well takes care of itself. It's only used if there's overflow. And that's how simple it is to change the coolant. Okay, now we'll give an overview of the brake and clutch bleeding process. This is a DOT4 system, so we'll make sure you get the right fluid. Go ahead and drain the fluid and fill it up with fresh DOT4 before you start. You want to always make sure that the level of the reservoir doesn't go below this point here. This is where it sucks in the fluid for the clutch. You have the master cylinder right here for the clutch. So if you don't want to get below that level, keep this full, and then you would start the brake bleeding process first. Always start with the caliper that's furthest away from the master cylinder, and it's just as simple as using the bleed nipple here at the back end of the Brembo caliper. And then we would go over to the left side and bleed from there. There's only one bleed screw per caliper on this car. Some cars have two. This will be the third place that we would bleed brake fluid from. And then finally in the driver's side. With the easy access to the reservoir, you can use a pressure bleed system. I often use a vacuum bleed system, or you can use the normal pumping method with a second person. And then when it's time to bleed the clutch, it's just right here. You would go and either use a vacuum bleed or pressure bleed or the pumping method of the clutch pedal to bleed the slave cylinder all the way through. And that's as simple as it is to maintain the clutch and the brakes. Changing brake pads is very easy on this car as well. The rear is a little bit more work than the front because you do need to remove the caliper, and then there's a pin that holds the brake pads in place. And then, so just these two bolts right there remove the caliper. And on the front, it's super quick. These are actually quick release Brembo brakes, and you just knock these two pins out, and there's a clip here that keeps everything in nice and tight from rattling, and the brake pads just pop straight out. So a lot easier to change the front brakes than on a standard car, so that's a nice feature. The pinch weld hockey pucks that you can get on Amazon that go right over the adapters for the lift points. So take a look underneath here. You can see right there. Let's see if I can show this. Doing it one-handed. But the nice part is these hockey pucks make sure that you are in the right spot. There we go. You can see that I make sure you're in the right spot on that pinch weld when you're lifting the car. So over here on that side and over there. So I lifted with 4 jacks, and then I set it down on the jack stands. And I lift each jack up a little bit at a time and jack it down a little bit at a time to reduce stress on the fiberglass body. Okay.